HTLA Radio 1. You will lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. We will add to your distinctiveness, your advertisers, and your sponsors to our own. Resistance is futile.
This program is intended for mature audiences only. If you have any homicidal or suicidal feelings, please consult a doctor before listening to this program.
Now, the man who is just permanently banned from Facebook because of his opinion, we give you Jesus.
Well, there you go. That's what the man said. Oh, yeah. There he is, the one, the only Crash Talker himself, Christopher CJT Crash Jesus Taylor, with you tonight on HTLA Radio 1 New York. And man, do I got a show tonight. Oh, I don't usually go into the politic arena. No, that's not my thing, but tonight I got a special place in my heart, special place in my black heart. Yes, for the Negro. That's right. Yes, tonight's show will be exploring the Negro. And no, I don't have one here on a table waiting for an autopsy. No. We'll be actually exploring, well, I guess to be more accurate and succinct about things, we'll be exploring the U.S. Army and its latest dealio, which, if you haven't heard, is the public apology for using the word Negro in their rules and regulations. Yes, with the Army. Yes, the Army. Yeah, so it's going to be a humdinger, and you're going to want to stick around, I think. So maybe you should. We'll be back in just a moment with some Crash Talk.
HTLA Radio 1 in New York City proudly presents Crash Talk.
Ah, there it is. That's the old, but the never getting tired of Crash Talk intro that we all know and love. Yes. You are listening to HTLA Radio 1, and this is indeed Crash Talk, and I am yours, Christopher Crash Jesus Taylor. There you go. 46 degrees right now in Central Park. Slightly cloudy. You know, we had a sprinkling of snow earlier today, and I'm not the least bit excited about that. No, I'm not. Joining me tonight via satellite, as always, is my mentor, my Academy Award winning nominated. Actually, he's not Academy Award winning. He's Academy Award nominated director. My mentor, Louis Lawless. Louis, can you hear me?
I lived in Greenwich Village for a while when I first started out as an actor.
I know that you've told that to us before. Yeah.
We have the most dynamic economy.
And the president there ringing in on his dynamic economy. So Louis is with us, and we're going to explore the Negro.
You being Catholic, you realize that you can have birth control. You realize that?
Oh, sure, absolutely. And these aren't my Negroes. No, I'm not talking about those. No. Let's talk about the U.S. Army, shall we? The U.S. Army. You know, the guys that we send to, war zones and do war things with the U.S. Army. And finally, hand-tooled Corinthian tobacconist products. When we send these Army people to war zones to get into wars for whatever our reasons are, none of which make sense to me, by the way, we want to change that, don't we? Not the invading countries part. No, hell no, that's fun. But we want to change our army. We want our army to be a touchy-feely, happier army. So we allow women in the army. Yes. In all our armed forces. We've got women in the armed forces. It's a great, proud day, isn't it? Yeah, not so much. No. Then what do we do? Oh, well, geez, all the gays are out now. There's parades all over the streets of America almost every day, it seems, So we need to have gays in the Army. Okay, we'll take gays in the Army. So now we're looking at, oh, geez, well, what's the world going to think about, our fighting force, what percentage of them is homosexual, and, if they're airy-fairy little flits, how are they going to handle a combat situation, etc., etc. Well, the one thing that hadn't changed about the Army until today was the Negro. That's right, Negro. The Negro. We have Negroes in the Army. We've had Negroes in the Army for over 100, 200 years. Oh. And never, ever, ever before in the entire history of the U.S. Army has there ever been a problem with anybody having a problem with what we write in our rules and regulations books for the Army, because after all, you're in the Army now. You're an army of one. Yes, and that means a Negro, one. And so because of that, because we've always had Negroes in the Army, and because Negroes are mentioned in the Army because they're in the Army regulation book, we address them as Negroes. Yes. And where does that come from? Well, I've got the answer for you, Crash Talkers. I don't just go in here half-assed. I've got all the answers. The word Negro is used in the English-speaking world to refer to a person of black ancestry and or appearance. Negro denotes black in Spanish and Portuguese, derived from the ancient Latin word nigger, thank you, black, which itself is probably from Proto-Indo-European root neck, to be dark, akin to knock, night. Negro is superseded colored as the most polite terminology. At a time when black was more offensive, i.e. 60s, the usage was accepted as normal, even by people classified as Negroes, until the later civil rights movement in the 60s. The well-known example is the identification by Martin Luther King Jr. of his own race as Negro in his famous 1963 speech, I Have a Dream. So, just to succinctly break that all back down into a single sentence for some of you Negroes out there, Martin Luther King fought, I must say, for the term Negro. And now, oh my goodness, yes, now, that's not good enough anymore for the PCers of the world. Oh, no, because you see, earlier today, the U.S. Army has removed a policy that said it was acceptable to refer to black service members as a Negro, and issued, get this, an apology Thursday. Issued the apology yesterday, 2 days after, guess who, CNN reported the regulation. Yes, so CNN has turned into a little tattletale crew now. They go around and they tell everybody what's right and wrong, and they report when things are bad. So CNN, a news agency, a non-biased, I might add, supposed to be journalist, report the facts, not uncover these secret things in the 7,000-page book of Army regulations. Yes, they uncovered and reported the regulation Negro word being used. Yes, the word that the same Martin Luther King Jr. fought for in 1963. Thank you very much. The U.S. Army fully recognized and promptly acted to remove... the Army gets a... Oh, geez, I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean to offend CNN. They get up and they remove the regulation 600, Section 20. As soon as it was brought to our attention, an Army spokesman said in a statement, "We apologize to anyone we offended." Yes, that is a spokesperson for the branch of the U.S. military. Yes, the guys and girls and homosexuals and everything else and Negroes that we send into all these countries to do whatever it is we're supposed to be doing over there. And they're so sorry they apologize to anyone they offended. Okay, so let me ask you this. Let me put this question out there, Crash Talkers. If we have an armed force that apologizes to anyone they may offend, how, oh how, are we expecting these pansies to go over and direct any kind of military theater or war battle thing? They can't offend anybody. And if the word Negro in the book of their own regulations, they're so sorry if anyone was offended by that, they can't carry out their job. I'm sorry, you can't. How are you supposed to raise a weapon and point it at anybody? Anybody. You might offend them. Until it was corrected, the regulation stated that, quote, terms such as Haitian or Negro can be used in addition to black or African American. The new policy limits the acceptable terms to black or African American. So now they can only be called black or African American now. Yes. Piss on the late, great Martin Luther King. Let's just unzip our flies right now and all collectively piss on that, because that's not cool anymore, so says CNN. Do you see why I have a problem with this? The American Army apparently takes pride in sustaining a culture where all personnel are treated with dignity and respect. And we will support all religious beliefs and accommodate where possible. Really? Okay. How many Muslims do you got in the U.S. Army right now? Okay, well, those Muslims are fighting against Muslims. You're taking those religious beliefs and apparently accepting them, but going and attacking Muslim targets. Yes, and I don't care if it's a branch of is or that countertop Korean, whatever the hell they're called. I don't care. You can't be accepting of everything and then go and impose your will anywhere else, because they're not accepting of you. No, they're not. Senator Tim Scott, who became the first African-American from the South elected to Senate since Reconstruction, said Wednesday on CNN that he would reach out to the Army after learning of the report. Yeah? What you going to reach out and do, sir? Huh? You going to reach out and publicly spank them for having something in there that Martin Luther King Jr. fought to have as an actual term to refer to his people? Is that what you're going to do? What do you think, Louis?
I think it should be short and sweet.
Well, it pretty much is, but it's short, sweet, and stupid.
Sex is only the tip of the iceberg.
Well, and as it always is, I think it always boils down to that, doesn't it? Lieutenant Colonel S. Justin Platt, an Army spokesman, said on Wednesday the use of the word comes from an outdated section. The racial definitions in AR 620, paragraph 6, subsection 2 are outdated currently and under review, and they will be updated shortly. Oh, boy. Well, all you military collectors out there, you should get on eBay now and start buying up the old regulation books, because I guess that value will be going up pretty good, because this one's no good anymore, Negro. Right. And see, I don't get that. I've never gotten that. I've never gotten that. How come it's so politically horrible? It's not even anything about political correctness. It's so politically horrible to refer to them as niggers when they do it to themselves publicly every day. They do it on the streets. They do it in their music videos. They do it on TV. Right, so they call each other my nigga. And it's all in fun, but we use the word that their own civil rights guy fought for in the 60s in our Army regulation book, and suddenly uncovered by CNN, Wolf Blitzer, you idiot, don't you have anything better to do with your time? Suddenly uncovered by CNN, boom, they freaking take that down. It's changed overnight. It's done. It's out of the way.
The thing that's going to hold us back is going to be us. And if we make good decisions, then we will continue to be not only the dominant power, but a benevolent force around the world.
A benevolent force. Oh, Louis.
Oh, can we cuss? Can I cuss as I always do on on the show? It's about fucking time. Move on.
All right, well, Mr. President, what does he say about our military, huh?
We are the strongest military.
Yeah, the strongest military. The strongest military of gays and, well, lesbians, I guess, and women, and, you know, pretty soon, I know what's coming. Pretty soon they're going to have a child draft. Yes, your kid will get to be about grade 4 or grade 5, and they'll get to sign a paper to sign up for the child draft. Yes, it's the new thing to do, all you little kids, to get into the Army early, because we need to replenish our numbers, because we just can't stop fighting all over the world day in and day out for decades and decades and keep it going, and oh my God, more money, and who cares? But I'll digress. My sourcing for the definition of the word Negro tonight was brought to you by Wikipedia. Yes, the free encyclopedia. Learn more at wikipedia.org. There you go. Now, this has gotten me somewhat riled and upset, as one can imagine. Now the blacks have narrowed the two acceptable definitions in the entire universe to them to be, of course, black or African American. So I guess if you're living in the United States, you're to be referred to as an African American. And if you're living outside the borders of the United States globally, then you damn well be better calling us black, and that's it. Yes. But we'll continue using the word nigger and Negro and any other derogatory thing we can come up with for us, but amongst ourselves all day long. That's fine. That's fine. And the Army apologizes. We are so effing sorry, Negroes, that we called you Negroes, which is what your own civil rights movement was all about. Well, and the seats on the bus. It's about fucking time. Move on. I think we should. And to the president, before we let him go, because he's just always on the phone here to Crash Talk, Mr. President, what would you say to allegations that we are still upwards plus of $518 trillion in debt?
We have the most dynamic economy, and our fiscal position actually now is such. You know, deficit's been cut by more than half.
More than half? Oh, so you have managed to pay off over $250 trillion inside of 6 years. That is stunning, wonderful. It's absolutely incredible.
I'm the President of the United States of America.
Yes, you are, but you're also a drooling moron. And when I say drooling, I underscore drooling, because you're drooling all over the telephone. That's absolute ridiculousness. And if you think that, and your wife, last night I find out your wife actually thinks you've created 10 million jobs. Yeah, 10 million jobs.
We're 5 steps away from winning the Academy Award, and we didn't.
I know. Which, again, is why you're here co-hosting with me.
My film, Unrepented, did very well in Europe.
It did. You know, I actually saw the numbers on that, Louis, and it was very good. But with all of your films, you know, I've always said you need more Negroes.
Oh, can we cuss? Can I cuss as I always do on the show?
All right. Well, that's enough of that freaking stupid fun. And that closes out our first segment of Crash Talk tonight. And I guess I'll just leave a parting thought here on this whole Negro U.S. Army thing. We can't say certain words. We can't say so many things anymore. We can't do so many things anymore. We can't be ourselves anymore. We have to be part of this magical, mysterious collective that nobody can see, hear, taste, smell. Well, no, I'll leave out that last part. We can smell it for what it is. I would just say to CNN, if you're so upset about the Negro, Maybe you should fire every single staff member you have in that entire corporation globally. And yes, I'm talking about Anderson Cooper. He's gay. Get him out of there. I'm talking about Christine Amanpour. Who cares about the journalistic talent? Get them gone and replace them with Negroes. And don't call them Negroes ever, because you have a problem with that. I want to see it. I want to see it overnight. I want to see it tomorrow. I want to turn on CNN and see nothing but the brothers and sisters there, all making the same wages you pay Wolf Barfface and all the rest of the fat little white Republicans you got working there. That's what I want to see. Will I see it? No, I won't. But it's still nice to dream. And so far, the PCers haven't taken that away from me. We'll be back in 2.
You're listening to Crash Talk with Christopher John Taylor, a.k.a. Crash Jesus, on HTLA Radio 1, New York.
The apocalypse is coming. Will it be aliens, zombies, or a global financial meltdown? Whatever it is, you need to be prepared. Get your complete apocalypse kit at Ammunition. Contains foodstuffs and alcohol for 3 months. A massive array of armaments. Water purifier so you can drink your own urine. And cyanide pills so you can go out like a man. Don't dial 911. Dial 357. Ammunition. Protecting your rights.
If only the world was less like this.
I could use a smoke.
Hey, put that out!
And more like this.
I could use a smoke.
You murderer! I might have children one day!
Smoking kills, unless you kill first. If you're around a smoker, you will die. Smokers may look relaxed and like they're having fun. Don't believe it. Vote yes on Proposition 421. Let's outlaw smoking everywhere, even in people's homes, and allow honest citizens to legally kill anyone who smokes. Let's live in a world without smokers. Prohibition works. Let's prove it. Let's move up the food chain. It's time to smoke the smokers. Vote yes on Proposition 421.
You want your kids to be safe, so you give them a mobile phone. What are they going to do when they get attacked? Throw it at someone? Why not force the state to keep us all protected by arming everybody? The senile old lady in her home, the 3-year-old on the playground, the priest in his church. We think everybody should carry weapons at all times. That way nobody gets hurt. It's a proven fact. Where there's more guns, there are less shootings. Vote yes on Proposition 45. Mandatory concealed carry for everybody. The nuclear deterrent won the Cold War. Let's use the same logic and win the war on crime. Proposition 45. Teach your kids to protect themselves.
The event movie of the year everyone is talking about.
You're just a virus. You're not real.
I'm your mother, stupid!
A group of people that think the whole world is trapped in a computer.
We can't get out!
Hurry! Stick your hard disk inside my drive!
I can't! My hard disk crashed!
Reboot it!
The Mainframe. What happens when 5 college students take LSD and discover the truth?
Ah! Your face is a big pixel!
And they have to make the decision of their lives.
What's it gonna be? Yes or no? 1 or 0?
The Mainframe. It's real.
The Mainframe!
Coming to theaters this Friday. Rated PS for pretty stupid.
Now, the man who is just permanently banned from Facebook because of his opinion, he gives you Crash Jesus.
Yeah, there you go. There's the Crash Jesus. Yes, we are back, and you are listening to Crash Talk at HTLA Radio 1, New York. And I am the host of Crash Talking, of course, the one, the only, Chris Crash Jesus Taylor, right here at you. Right here, Bobby. And tonight we've been talking about the the sudden, immediate need to absolutely quash the wording of the U.S. Army's Regulation Book, Section 600, because it contains the word Negro. Yes, we can't have that, can we? No, of course not, we can't. But, you know, that's what we got now. And so I guess this is the official public announcement that no, you can't say Negro anymore. Yes, that's an absolute no-no, and it will not be tolerated in any way, shape, or form.
I think it should be short and sweet.
Yeah, I think we should just say nig. How's that? What's wrong with that? Nig. Kind of goes back to that Latin neck, meaning black. And black's okay. So
It's about fucking time. Move on.
Well, there you go. Okay, all right. So we're moving on. Segment 2 tonight, we're talking about the midterm elections and my 2 cents on that. I've heard a number of media outlets in yesterday and today and the day before, all with their speculations on the great wins for the Republicans and the losses for the Democrats are no surprise because Obama's an idiot and yada, 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 yada. Well, coming from my perspective, and you all, if you're Crash Talk listeners, should know by now what that perspective is, then you may appreciate this. If you were observing the American elections from the outside, you might be asking yourself the following. Can't these people make up their minds? Yeah. 4 out of the last 5 elections, I'd like to remind everybody, 2006, 2008, 2010, and now 2014, were, quote, wave, end quote, elections in which one party won sweeping victory. They elect a president of one party, then 2 years later almost inevitably give the other party a huge victory in the midterm elections. Why do they expect things to change? Well, it's a good question. It's always dangerous to speak of a country of 319 million people as having a singular will, or of an election expressing that fabled will. That's particularly true when only about 40% of eligible voters even show up for midterm elections. Like every party that wins, the GOP will claim that, quote, the American people, end quote, have endorsed its agenda in full, and therefore if President Obama stands in its way, then he's thwarting the public's desires. We've established that the public is fed up with a Congress seemingly incapable of getting anything done. The trouble is that the voters, unanimous in their abhorrence of gridlock, just delivered a result almost guaranteeing to produce more gridlock. Now, to be fair, there was one party assuring them that their votes would do just the opposite. Republican candidates promised voters that they'd stand in Obama's way and also promised that they'd get, quote, things done, sometimes in the same sentence. As the Atlantic's Molly Ball reported last week, these two seemingly contradictory messages are at the heart of Republican Senate campaigns across the country. I've heard them candidate after candidate. It's one thing to vote Republican because it's the party that reflects your beliefs, but if you're voting Republican because you want to see Congress become more conciliatory and productive, you really should have been paying closer attention in the last 6 years. That's because obstructionism hasn't been an accident or a reaction to moves on Obama's part that Republicans found objectionable. It was a strategy they employed from the outset. Literally, on the day Obama was inaugurated, Republican leaders gathered over dinner and made a decision to oppose everything he proposed, to deny him both substantive progress and whatever political benefits might accrue to a president who looks like he's accomplishing things. In 2010, Mitch McConnell explained to the New York Times how important it was to present a unified front of opposition to the president's proposals, because then the public would dismiss the debate as just partisan bickering. Mr. McConnell spent hours listening to the worries and ideas of Republicans, the paper reported, urging them not to be seduced by the attention-grabbing possibilities of cutting a bipartisan deal. As political strategy, it was extremely astute and executed to near perfection. McConnell understood well that the president gets credit when Washington works and blame when it doesn't, whether he deserves it in either case. So Republicans could pour sand in the gears of government and watch Obama suffer for it, and it worked. What was the result of 6 years of unprecedented filibusters, debt ceiling crises, a government shutdown, 50 futile Affordable Care Act repeal votes, endless conspiracy theorizing, and a dramatic increase in general buffoonery. The Republicans took back the House in 2010 and have now taken the Senate. Voters rewarded their misdeeds by returning them to power. And now the politicians in both parties are saying they want to come together to accomplish things for the public. Isn't that nice? Well, the problem with that is, of course, they don't agree on the things that they'd like to accomplish. The argument isn't over means, it's over ends. That will be even truer when the new Congress is inaugurated in January than it is now. This new class of freshman Republicans in both the House and Senate is even more conservative than the existing GOP caucus, if you thought such a thing was possible. And to them, getting things done means slashing environmental protections, taking away health coverage from millions who have obtained it through the Affordable Care Act, and cutting taxes on the wealthy. If those new representatives actually managed to turn those beliefs into law, the public would say, hey, we didn't vote for that. And they didn't. Even in this Republican-leaning year, voters in 4 deep red states, Arkansas, Alaska, Nebraska, and South Dakota, used ballot initiatives to approve one of the Democratic Party's highest economic priorities, increasing the minimum wage. Personhood initiatives that would ban abortion failed, not only by the swing state of Colorado, but in conservative North Dakota as well. In other words, where the voters had a chance to decide policy issues, they chose the Democratic position even as they were voting for Republican candidates. So what do the American people want? They want to have their cake and eat it too. As political scientists have known for decades, Americans are symbolic conservatives but operational liberals. They like things like small government in the abstract, but they also like all the things the big government does. They elect Democrats who try to accomplish complex policy goals and then turn around and elect Republicans when things don't work perfectly. They say they hate gridlock, then elect people who will assure them of more of it. And 2 years from now, a whole new crop of candidates will barnstorm the country. Yes, mark my words. Saying, elect me and we'll clean up this mess. And the voters, or at least the 40-odd% of the country that actually bother anymore, will, despite all the evidence and experience, actually buy it. And it's funny, you know, because when I was a kid, I think I first started watching news and learning about politics and stuff when I was 11 years old. It's when I started drinking coffee with Mom. And I should mention that we are partially sponsored by Tim Hortons, New York City. There we go. Yeah, I started taking note of things, and I started following things, and I started seeing things. And, you know, within the space, I'm gonna be fair. I'm gonna say within the space of about 2 years, I learned something. I learned that the entire system is broken. It doesn't work. Bipartisan be damned, it does not work. You will always get what we have here now. You just will. That's the way the system works. And by the time I was actually old enough to vote, I never took part. I have never voted in my life. And I'm 47 now. And there's a lot of you out there that would say, my, that's awfully sad. But then there's a growing number of you out there that say, you're not missing anything. Just let them go do what they're going to do, and we'll just be over here, living our lives and trying to get through without getting nuked. And that's pretty much, you know, over these next 4 decades, exactly what's happened. And the thing that gets me is I'm actually surprised at something. I'm surprised that so many people still turned out to vote. All the analysts at CNN and all the other political analysts that you talk to and listen to, all of them are surprised that, you know, there was only a 45% turnout. I'm not. I'm the other end of the scale. I'm surprised that there was actually 45% who still give a damn. Because, well, and it's not even giving a damn. I don't think it is. You know, if you really care about this country, I care about this country. Do I vote? No, absolutely not. Because that whole system is going to, it's self-perpetuating. It's going to do what it's going to do, and there's not a whole heck of a lot we can do about it. Because if there was, then we would take...
I'm the President of the United States of America.
That man right there, yes, with the...
We are the strongest military, and
Yeah.
our fiscal position actually now is such, deficit's been cut by more than half.
He is on crack. He's lost it. And more and more I'm hearing about people moving through the halls of justice trying to find a way to impeach this man and get him the hell out, and hope good old Joe Biden can step up and fill the boots of the idiot and do better in these last 2 years. But I submit, and yes, I'm going to say this on the air, I believe that, well, there were other people involved, of course, but I believe Oprah Winfrey paid for this man's win, number one, in the first place. I actually voted, I didn't go to the polls and vote, but I actually was behind Obama when the 2008 elections were going on. I was rooting for him. Come on. Let the Negro win. That's what I was thinking. And lo and behold, he did. And everything that he was proposing and everything that he was talking about and everything that he was about, I was absolutely sucked in, hook, line, and sinker. Even after, becoming clued in at the age of 14, I thought, no, this guy is different. This guy's different. Not because he's black. No, not because he's going to be the first black man in the White House if he wins. It was because of his platform. What those men said they were going to do if elected, because all of that stuff was great stuff. It was. And yeah, the whole Obamacare thing is a nightmare, but that's beside the point. Everything else they were proposing was top notch, and I was with them all the way, and they got in. Yes. My faith was restored. I was going to become a part of the whole system again. He showed me the light. And one of the biggest things that I took from him and said, yeah, this is the guy I want in the White House, the biggest thing. We are going to bring home the troops, all of them. We are going to bring them home in 30 days. That's what he said, if elected. Well, he got elected. And on the day he got sworn in, I was watching and proud and crying with Oprah. We were sharing some Cheez-Its. It was a wonderful scene. Well, I was in political heaven for the next 30 days. And why 30 days, Crash? Why only 30 days? What do you mean only 30 days? Well, because, kids, 30 days after he was sworn in, that man, and I use the term man loosely, sent 75,000 more troops to the Middle East. Done. What do you think about that math, Louie?
$88,000 a year they make, approximately average, 80s, let's say.
Who?
And there's 1,000. That's $88 million a year that we're paying as taxpayers.
Okay, I'm not with you, but that's all right.
How many different families do you have?
Well, let's see. There's the ones in Scranton. There's the ones in Albany. There's the ones in...
It's about fucking time. Move on.
All right. We're going to move on. Actually, that's, look at that this time. That's our second 20-minute segment over already. There it is.
That was a mistake on my part.
I know, but you know what? We're not going to hold it against you. We're just not going to do that. But we will be back in 2 minutes.
You're listening to Crash Talk with Christopher John Taylor, a.k.a. Crash Jesus, on HTLA Radio 1, New York.
We're going to take a break. Don't touch that dial.
Too fat and lazy to come pick up a bazooka? Log on and have it at your door the next morning. Log on to ammunition.net. Try our motion-sensitive cluster bombs and shoot-to-maim automated firing gun turrets, which come ready to assemble in 284 easy parts. Ammunition.net also has a full line of generators so you can keep your fridge running and the beer cold through extended apocalypse. Need to stock up fast? The strongest will survive with our all-in-one Y2K kit featuring a tractor-trailer load of lager beer, Redwood cigarettes, and enough firepower and ammunition to level a small country. Jesus! Y2K. It's coming, and you'd better be ready. Log on to ammunition.net now. Protecting your rights online.
My family! He's got a gun!
Someone's breaking into your home. What do you do? Call 911? It takes the police an average of 35 minutes to respond to a 911 call. In that time, a burglar could have his way with your wife, smoke a cigarette, flip her over, and go in for seconds. Don't let the worst happen to you. It is vital that you protect yourself. Do it the patriotic way.
That's right. Ammunition has all the equipment you need to protect your family from the evils of a liberal society. Fixed, mounted, and shoulder-held submachine guns, mortars, surface-to-air, and all manner of heat-seeking missiles. And just in to celebrate the Gulf War, pink and blue tracer bullets so you can protect your family in the dark. Start the week off right on Make My Day Mondays with 2-for-1 on main, strafe, and kill landmines. Got Gulf War syndrome? Get $10 off all machine gun rentals. Hey, if you love your family, prove it with a gun. Ammunition, protecting your rights.
The apocalypse is coming. Will it be aliens, zombies, or a global financial meltdown? Whatever it is, you need to be prepared. Get your complete apocalypse kit at Ammunition. Contains foodstuffs and alcohol for 3 months. A massive array of armaments. Water purifier so you can drink your own urine. And cyanide pills so you can go out like a man. Don't dial 911. Dial 357. Ammunition. Protecting your rights.
Until death do us part. Gosh, I remember that day like it was yesterday. Jennifer looked so beautiful. I knew I'd love her forever. And then she was driving along a canyon and her brakes went out. Well, I'm moving on now and remarried someone half my age. God, I love banging her. I started my life over with Crimson Executive Spouse Indemnity Services. Life can be uncertain, and you never know when your wife will be tragically taken away. Crimson set me up with a huge life insurance policy on my wife. I can't have her back, but now I have a second home.
I was devastated when I found out my wife was cheating on me, and even more so when she fell underneath the train. I was nowhere near at the time, and my phone records proved that. My life changed forever. I was a real mess for hours. Thankfully, the week before, I'd met with Crimson. Thanks to Crimson, I've had a penile augmentation and am much more confident with women. Thank you, Crimson.
To have a Crimson Planning for the Future kit faxed to you, just dial 1-866-505-CRIM.
Now, the man who is just permanently banned from Facebook because of his opinion, we give you Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you do. You give it to him. And I am here. I am back for our third and final segment tonight of Crash Talk, HTLA Radio 1. And hey, if you haven't checked out the HTLARadio1.com website, well, you're doing yourself a great disservice. You need to get over there and check that out, because I have not seen a website like that in my entire life. No. What about you, Louie?
They get fucking crazy because all of a sudden nobody loves them.
Oh.
Sex is only the tip of the iceberg.
Okay. All right. Well, the new website there, HTLARadio1.com. Check it out when you get a chance. Now, today on Crash Talk, I've been ripping apart the Negro. Actually, to be fair, I'm not ripping apart the Negro. I'm ripping apart CNN because, number one, it's not their place as media broadcast journalists to be uncovering stuff like this and to bring it to the public's attention so that all the black people can get outraged and yes, I'm allowed to say black, they can get outraged and cause a whole big thing. No. And it kind of backfired on them in the end because, geez, look what happened. CNN uncovers this, and then what? A couple hours later, the U.S. Army's like, well, we'll take that word out of there, sir. We're very sorry. We didn't mean to offend. Stand down. The word that I must remind everybody was fought for to be used as a civil name by the civil rights movement's leader, Martin Luther King. He had a dream, and today it's been quashed in the U.S. Army for the PCers because it's not cool anymore. No. Yeah. Yes, that was our first segment tonight. And, after these midterm elections, I gave you my 2 cents on what I think of that whole deal in the second segment. Third segment's kind of opening up a little bit to a couple of other things. First of all, I want to read you an article written by Jason Johnson, who is a CNN reporter. So it's got to be good. It's timely for the midterms here, and there's some important points I'd like to cover. He says, right before the midterm elections of 2006, George W. Bush made the push to voters that the war in Iraq would be in trouble if the Democrats took over Congress. Apparently, that was all the incentive the public needed to turn out in huge numbers and give Democrats control of the House and Senate in a crushing midterm defeat. Did it stop the war, however? No, not at all. In fact, Bush doubled down, pushing through the troop surge, and basically made it impossible for the 2008 presidential candidates to steer away from the military policies he set forth. In other words, losing the House and Senate in the 6th year of your presidency doesn't mean your legacy is done for. Of course, Barack Obama is no George W. Bush. Got that right. And that might be his undoing after a serious shellacking in this week's midterms. First, let's be honest about what happened Tuesday night. The stock market is way up. Unemployment is the lowest in 6 years, lies, and gas prices are way down. That was just because of the midterm elections. They'll go back up the next week. Thank you very much. So by objective measures, the country is doing well. No, it's not. You stupid crack monkey. And yes, I'm using the monkey in place of Negro, because Negro's not cool anymore. Yes. Yet over 60% of Americans say we're on the wrong track, and the Democrats got beat in blue and red states across the country, from Massachusetts to Nevada. 5 red states voted to increase the minimum wage, a major Democratic issue since 2012. But at the same time, those states voted overwhelmingly for Republican candidates who stand against minimum wage increases. Yes, because traditionally we know the Republicans are the cornerstone, the pillars of the majority of things that made this country great in the first place, i.e. traditionalism, i.e. the backbone of industry, etc., etc. Like it or not, Republicans made this country what it is, long and short. And we forget just how much everyone hates. Well, no, is that fair? And we forget just how much everyone hates Congress. Congressional approval has been less than 15% for the last 2 years. How bad is that approval number? Well, to put it into perspective, 9% of Americans have a favorable opinion of Vladimir Putin. Yeah. 11% have a favorable opinion of North Korea. And 12% have a favorable opinion of Iran. So I'm thinking Congress's 15% ain't sitting too well, is it? Of course not.
It's about fucking time. Move on.
Yeah, there you go. So the U.S. Congress is just barely more popular than most of the axis of evil and Russian leaders who make vague threats about nuclear war with the United States. This probably explains why President Obama was most buoyant during his autopsy press conference on Wednesday afternoon, much more so than the last midterms in 2010. President Obama doesn't have to save his presidency, but he does have some serious work to do in the next couple of months to make sure the next several years aren't a repeat of the pointless gridlock that has clogged Congress since 2010. Here are the key issues he must focus on. Number 1, immigration. Immigration reform is the holy grail of politics that is supposed to magically tie Hispanic voters to one party or another for the next 20 years. The problem is that the truth is that the immigration policy is both a serious domestic and national security issue that for too long has been obstructed by vehement Tea Partiers, limited by President Obama's overly cautious nature. The president's plan to do immigration reform by executive order is actually a good idea, not just for his legacy, but also because it will either force the Republicans to offer and pass a cohesive counterbill or simply let Obama handle the policy and move on. Just a disclaimer here again, this is not me, this is Jason Johnson of CNN saying this. Number 2, minimum wage. One of the great ironies of the midterm elections of 2014 was that Republican candidates generally ran against increasing the minimum wage. But the red states they were elected by voted to increase the minimum wage. Right now, before Republicans take over the Senate, the president should make a push to pass a minimum wage increase once again. He can frame a vote on the minimum wage as a gift to incoming Republicans if Congress can pass a minimum wage bill before the new Congress starts in January. Freshman Republicans won't be in the unenviable position of fighting against a policy overwhelmingly passed in their home states. Number 3 is civil rights. The Negroes. President Obama appears poised to pick Brooklyn prosecutor Loretta Lynch to replace Eric Holder, a nomination that thus far shouldn't cause too much controversy. But he needs to cram through as many judges and appellate appointments as he can in the next several months. The Republican Party has refused to vote on, or just plain old rejected, a historic number of President Obama's judicial appointments. Yeah, called that one. The president is now in a position to trade. Republicans know that President Obama will likely veto the vast majority of the bills the new Senate will send him, perhaps in exchange for letting more judicial appointments through and ending the confirmation logjam of appointments he's already made. The president can go offer concessions on the number and types of bills from the GOP that he'll veto. And number 4, foreign policy. The biggest challenge going forward for President Obama will likely be foreign policy. Nuclear negotiations with Iran, sanctions on Russia and ISIS will be issues that expected new Senate committee heads like Bob Corker, Republican of Tennessee, and John McCain, Republican Arizona, will be champing at the bit to challenge Obama on. Of course, most of these issues can be managed tactfully by the president if he decides to act swiftly as opposed to simply bickering with the opposition. A final deal developed with Iran and the UN Security Council can be signed, sealed, and delivered by the November 24th deadline if the president acts fast enough. Any tougher sanction bills coming out of Congress in 2015 would look foolish when the president has already negotiated a deal. McCain will be calling for boots on the ground to fight ISIS, and while that is something retarded, absolutely retarded, you can't fight that, President Obama has stood against. The reality is sending security support to the Middle East could assuage some of McCain's bloodlust and curry favor with other hawks over the next 2 years. The midterm elections were not good for the Democrats, nor were they good for President Obama. But this doesn't mean he can't get any policies passed. It's just a matter of how committed he is to working as quickly as he can with the difficult Congress he has in this lame duck session before the impossible Congress of 2015 comes into office. President Obama had one of the most productive periods of his presidency after the midterm elections in 2010, and there's no reason he can't accomplish similar policy goals now if he's willing to take the initiative. Cut some deals, and occasionally stand his ground instead of hoping for some mythical bipartisanship. On the actual policies, the president seems to have the support of the people. The question is whether he will take the hint and actually act on this. And I'm going to throw another little, what do you call it? What is it? What is that, a premonition? No, a prediction? It's a prediction. I'll issue another prediction right now. I don't think he's going to do anything but play golf. Yeah, play golf, travel. Yeah, they've been doing a lot of traveling. You know, he's got a family to support and deal with. You know, he can't be president 24/7. He said this. Yeah, he can't be president 24/7. I guess they're not allowed to wake him up at 3 in the morning when Americans are dying somewhere. That's probably not cool either. Yeah. Well, in closing tonight, how about we root for oil prices to go back up? Huh? What do you say, Louie? That'd be good, yeah?
I think it should be short and sweet.
Well, it will. Well, pretty short.
Oh, can we cuss? Can I cuss as I always do on the show?
Oh, you go right on ahead.
It's about fucking time. Move on. All
right. Well, yes. American drivers, I should say, across the country are rejoicing at falling gasoline prices, but the world's oil producers are understandably less than thrilled at the drop in revenues. Oh, yes, I'm sure they're looking at their bank accounts going, oh my God, Habib, how are we going to afford the prostitutes? That discontent could dissolve into something a lot more serious very quickly. Instability and even unrest. And in that turn, would that drive prices back up, leaving no one feeling happy, except Habib. This is a hard cycle to break. Ultimately, there's only one way out, and that's to depend less on oil for both producers and consumers. In the meantime, the U.S. economy will just adjust to lower prices, even if that adjustment is painful for some companies and their investors. That may be true almost nowhere else in the world. A number of oil-producing countries may have trouble paying their bills. If oil prices stay below a certain level, expert opinion generally puts that level between $80 and $100 per barrel, but given how much money goes missing in most oil-producing countries, it's hard to be sure about the breaking point. No one really knows the price elasticity of corruption. In countries that are already experiencing unrest, and unrest often goes hand in hand with oil wealth, any shortfall could spell disaster. Some producers are more vulnerable than others. Norway, for example, will be fine. The country has a fairly diverse economy and will run national oil company that plays by the rules, and a democratic government. Saudi Arabia, like Norway, has a large sovereign wealth fund which the country is actively using right now to weather their price volatility of the sacred black Negro product. There may even be a silver lining for the U.S. in the case of some countries. For Russia and Iran, already feeling the bite of international sanctions, the domestic pressure that comes with low prices may prompt their leaders to be more accommodating in international negotiations, at least for now. But with Putin, threatening nuclear war every time you turn around or drop a hat, then I don't see that happening. No. Maybe they need more sanctions. It's the countries that are already in deep trouble, such as Iraq and Libya, that are truly at risk. Oil income has been propping up embattled central governments, but with less money to ensure political and popular support, and the ongoing assaults, these governments could fail. But if there are other less obvious but no less consequential producers at risk, but there are other less obvious. God, I can talk tonight. What the hell? Consider Nigeria, an important global supplier with the 26th largest GDP in the world. Nigeria should have everything going for it, but instead the country ranks 153rd out of 187 countries in the United Nations Human Development Index, rating low in everything from life expectancy to education. The nation's highly corrupt energy sector is partially to blame. 2015 is the election year in Nigeria, and if unpopular President Goodluck Jonathan lacks the patronage dollars to spread around and won't step aside, expect problems. Venezuela is not much better off. Still an important trade partner for the U.S., the country's oil production is in steady decline. Even though Venezuela, the largest petroleum reserves in the world it sits on, the Chavez era was tough on Venezuela's once respected national oil company, featuring political purges and a devastating strike. If the increasingly decrepit energy sector can no longer bankroll social programs that will roll in already unsettled population, energy subsidies to other Caribbean nations may well be the first thing to go, and U.S. refiners will feel that bite too. One of the top energy trading partners for the U.S., Mexico, has seen its production drop by almost a quarter in the last 10 years. Mexico's largest field, Canatero, has long been in decline, and the national oil company lacks the technical expertise to drill new deepwater sites. The Peña Nieto government is currently shepherding through reforms that could change that picture, but lower prices could be a complication given that 30 to 40% of the government revenues come from oil. All of this instability is bad news for the U.S. national security, but also for the American consumer. This is the cruel full circle of the global oil market. Unrest provoked by low oil prices in these countries can run prices back up, and rest assured they will. The United States is still a net importer of petroleum, and even if that should change, which is possible, the United States will remain tied to the global oil market. Their crisis will be our crisis. So while it's nice to get a break at the gas pump and the economic benefits of an energy boom at home, the national security price of oil remains high. In the near term, the United States should be doing everything it can to diversify global energy suppliers, including allowing exports of U.S. crude. In the long term, the only way out is a sustained long-term investment in the alternatives to petroleum. This is a critical but not quick fix given the scale of global oil consumption and the technological challenges involved. It would help to be strategic and consistent in these investments. Innovation in the transportation sector is especially important, for example, given its near-total dependence on oil. Of course, if the U.S. succeeds in energy innovation, that will in itself be destabilizing for other oil-producing countries. Ultimately, the only way out is for them to diversify their economies and promote good governance and rule of law for their energy sector. That is something they have to do for themselves. We can't do that for them or put troops on the ground to make sure they do that for them. But the U.S. should do everything it can to press, persuade, and support such reforms as a matter of national security, no matter how much oil we produce at home. And there you go, Crash Talkers. That's my 2 cents there on the oil dealio. So again, email. Give me your email. No. Good night, Louie.
That was a mistake on my part.
Okay.
It's about fucking time. Move on.
Well, I'd like to thank HTLA Radio 1 New York for having us on here again. Another week of Crash Talk. We'll definitely see y'all here next week. You got some new stuff. Check out that HTLAradio1.com website. It's kicking. And until next week, life sucks, and I'm gone.
HTLA Radio 1. You will lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. We will add your distinctiveness, your advertisers, and your sponsors to our own. Resistance is futile.